You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 34. Stone General delivers a letter at a village inn. Huarong shoots a wild goose at Liangshan Marsh. When General Qin Ming and Colonel Huang Xian surveyed the outskirts of the town, they saw that Song Jiang and Huarong led one group of bandits, while Stunted Tiger and Yan Shun led another. They had about 150 men each. Huang Xian gave orders that the drawbridge be lowered and the bandits be allowed to enter the town. Song Jiang had previously issued an order that his men were not to kill even one person in the town, that they were first to reach the southern side of the town to exterminate the family of Magistrate Lu Gao. Stunted Tiger, however, took his men to Magistrate Lu Gao's house and seized the magistrate's wife for himself. The magistrate's house was looted, and all the valuables, horses, cattle, etc. were taken away. Huarong took his men to his own house, where he took all his family and their possessions on carts. He announced that any of the men at his yamen might remain in their homes, or go with the bandits to the mountain, just as they wished. When all this had been done, the bandits returned to the mountain with their loot, etc. Jing Tianshou had remained behind in charge of the stronghold, and when he saw the bandits returning with cartloads of loot, he welcomed them to the main hall. After Huarong had introduced Huang Xian and the new comrades, they all sat down. Song Jiang gave orders that Huarong's family should be given proper quarters, and that the loot from Magistrate Lu Gao's house should be equally divided among the bandits. Stunted Tiger had taken the captured woman to his own rooms. In the main hall, Yan Shun asked where Magistrate Lu Gao's wife was, and Stunted Tiger replied, "You must now let me keep her to be my wife." "You may keep her," said Yan Shun, "but first she must come here, as I have something to say to her." "I also want to ask her a question or two," said Song Jiang. Stunted Tiger sent a man, who soon brought in Madame Lu Gao, who was weeping and begging pardon. "You vixen," said Song Jiang, "I saved your life on this mountain because you were the wife of the magistrate, but why did you return evil for my good? Now that you have been arrested, what have you got to say for yourself?" Yan Shun jumped up and said, "Why do you ask questions of this slut?" So saying, he drew his sword and killed the woman on the spot. When Stunted Tiger saw this, he seized a sword and advanced to fight with Yan Shun. Song Jiang and the others, however, also arose and intervened. Song Jiang said, "Yan Shun has done the right thing in killing this woman. I saved her life and sent her down the mountain to rejoin her husband, and yet she caused her husband to injure me. If you keep her, it would only end in trouble. I will get you a wife later on, and you will then be satisfied." "I am of the same opinion," said Yan Shun. "If we do not kill her, she would do us further injury." Stunted Tiger listened to all this and remained silent. Yan Shun ordered the servants to remove the corpse and then spread out a feast for celebration. The next day, Huarong prepared the marriage of his sister to General Qin Ming under the auspices of Song Jiang and Huang Xian, Yan Shun, Stunted Tiger, and Jing Tianshou acting as go-between. All the dowry was prepared by Huarong. All this was done, and after the wedding there was general feasting for about 5 days. About 10 days after the wedding, one of the bandit scouts came up the mountain and reported that Prefect Murong at Qinzhou Prefecture had sent a memorial to the imperial court denouncing Huarong, Qin Ming, and Huang Xian as rebels, and petitioning that a large army be sent to quell the rebels and the bandits. Upon receiving this news, they held a general discussion, and all agreed that their position on that mountain was not too secure, and that if a large army had them surrounded, they could not avoid being captured. "I have a plan," said Song Jiang, "but I do not know whether you, my brethren, would approve of it." "Let us hear it," they all cried. To the south of this place there is Liangshan Marsh with a circumference of 200 li, and in that area are the towns Wanzi Fortress and Liaoer Hollow. That district is now controlled by about 5,000 bandits under the command of Chao Gai, and the government troops dare not look them in the face. How would it be if we take all our men there and join that gang? "As there is such a place," said General Qin Ming, "your proposal is admirable. But as we have nobody to recommend us, would they be willing to admit us?" Song Jiang laughed aloud, and related the whole story from the seizure of the birthday presents unto the sending of a letter to him through Lu Teng, and how he killed the woman Yen Poxi, and later joined the highwaymen. Qin Ming was pleased at hearing this, and said, "So you are their benefactor? In that case there is no need for any delay, and we can go there at once." That day all the details were discussed and arrangements made. All the women and children, valuables, clothes, stores, etc. were loaded on about 10 carts. There were about 300 horses available. All those men who did not want to go to Liangshan Marsh were paid off, and allowed to go their own way. There were altogether about 500 who agreed to go. These were divided into 3 companies, and they left the mountain separately, disguised as troops going to fight against Liangshan Marsh. When everything was ready for departure, all the buildings on the mountain were destroyed and set on fire. Song Jiang and Huarong took command of the leading company. They had flags on which was written, "Government troops for the arrest of brigands," so that on the way no one attempted to impede the progress of such a considerable force. Song Jiang and Huarong rode at the head of their column. Next to them were the carts containing the women, children, stores, etc., and bringing up the rear was the main force. They had gone about 7 li when they came to a place called Mount Duang, having 2 equally high and shaped mountains on both sides of a broad way. As they were proceeding they heard drums and gongs on the mountains. Huarong said, "There are evidently brigands in front," and so saying he buckled his spear, got his bow and arrows ready for action. He gave orders that the main force should move forward and stay with the carts in one body. The 2 leaders then took about 20 of the mounted bandits to make reconnaissance. They had only gone half a li when they saw about 100 mounted men, following a youth, all in red. Balancing a halberd in his hand, he gave a challenge, "I will fight with you today, and see who must be the winner." Instantly another young warrior in white holding another halberd also led about 100 mounted men, clad in white, down a small mound, to meet the challenge. Each side had its respective red and white flags. The roll of drums seemed to shake the very rocks. Grimly both warriors gave reins to their steeds, and engaged in a deadly combat. After about 30 bouts neither leader gained any advantage. Song Jiang and Huarong witnessed this contest from a distance, and applauded the skill that was displayed. Huarong urged his horse forward slowly until he was quite close to the combatants. He then noticed that one man had a leopard's tail on his halberd whereas the other had a spotted streamer of 5 colors, and during the contest these had become entwined so that the 2 weapons could not be separated. Huarong reined in his horse, seized his bow, and shot an arrow, cutting the tangle, and releasing the 2 halberds at the same moment. At this feat a shout of applause involuntarily broke from the throats of the 2 bodies of mounted men. The 2 young men stopped fighting, and advanced to Huarong and Song Jiang with a salute, "We request the name of the marvelous archer." Returning the salute Huarong answered, "This is Song Jiang, my adopted brother. I am Huarong, military prefect of the Qingfeng town." The 2 young men dismounted, thrusted their halberds in the ground, and bowed down. "We have heard of your fame for a long time." Huarong and Song Jiang quickly dismounted, and raised the 2 men to their feet. "We ask for your worthy names," they said. The young warrior in red replied, "I am Lu Feng of Tanzhou. I am a great admirer of the Marquis Lu Bu of the 3 Kingdoms period, and therefore I learned the skill with the halberd. People have given me the same nickname as Lu Bu, the little Marquis of One. Some time ago I took some unprepared medicine to Shandong, but lost all my capital in that venture, and I could not go back to my native village. Temporarily I took charge of the bandits here at Mount Duang. A few days ago this worthy came, and wanted to take my stronghold by force. I proposed to let him occupy one mountain, while I held the other one, but he would not agree to that. So every day we met, and fought about that matter. By an act of heaven our fighting has resulted in our fortunately meeting you." Turning to the warrior in white, Song Jiang asked for his name. That person replied, "My unworthy name is Guosheng, and I am from Jialing in Sichuan province. I was a trader in quicksilver, but one day a strong wind upset my boat on the Yellow River so that I could not return to my native town. Formerly at Jialing I was trained in the use of the halberd by a Major Zhang, and I became so skillful that people gave me the nickname rival of Rengui. I heard that at Mount Duang there was a man who had held that place against all comers by the use of the halberd, so I came here to have a trial of strength with him. We have been fighting for about 10 days without either of us winning. We did not anticipate meeting you, but heaven has evidently favored us. Then Song Jiang told them about his affairs, and he suggested that they should come to amicable terms. Both men agreed to this, and all were pleased. By this time all the 3 contingents of the brigands had arrived, and Song Jiang introduced the leaders. Lu Fang invited them all to go to his stronghold up the mountain, where he provided a banquet. On the following day Guoxing invited the bandits' leaders to come to his mountain, and there they had another feast. Song Jiang suggested that they should both go with them, and join the brigands under Chao Gai at Liangshan Marsh. Gladly they agreed to this, and prepared their effects for an early departure. But Song Jiang said that as they had now more than 500 strong men their movements would be duly reported to Liangshan Marsh by spies or scouts, and there they might suspect some hostile intention. So he suggested that he would go in advance with Yan Shun, and announce their proposal. They could come along afterwards, but not in one body, but divided into 3 contingents. The other leaders agreed to this plan as much better, and it was arranged that Song Jiang and Yan Shun should have a start of a half-day. These 2 were accompanied by about 10 men when they departed for Liangshan Marsh. On the 3rd day of their journey about noon they came to an inn, and as they were all tired Song Jiang decided to stop there for food and wine. He gave orders that the horses' girths were to be slackened, and when this had been done they all adjourned to the inn. Song Jiang saw that there were only 3 large tables and a few smaller ones. One of the big tables was already occupied by a man. He noticed that the man wore a turban in the shape of a pig's snout, at the back of which were 2 finely wrought copper rings of Taiyuan make. He wore a black silk gown with a white waist sash, had puttees and hempen shoes. Leaning against the table was a short cudgel, and on the table was a bundle of clothes. The man was about 8 feet high, had a sallow complexion with prominent cheekbones, the eyes were clear, there was neither mustache nor beard. Song Jiang spoke to the waiter, "We have a large party, but we too will sit in your inner room. Will you ask that customer to be so good as to change to another table, and let my men dine on that big one?" To this proposal the waiter assented. Wine was ordered, each man to have 3 big cups. Food was also placed on the tables. As several of Song Jiang's men could not find seats the waiter went to the guest before mentioned, who looked like a junior officer, and said, "May I trouble you, my officer, but would you mind moving to another table so that the followers of these other honored guests may have a seat as we are short of room?" The man was annoyed at being addressed in this way, and replied, "I was here first, I don't care who wants me to move, I won't move." "You see he is so rude," remarked Yan Shun to Song Jiang. "Leave him alone," said Song Jiang. "We must not follow his bad example." Just then the man turned round, and seeing the 2 leaders, he laughed sneeringly. The waiter said to him, "Sir, you may render a favor to our business here, and change tables." The man banged the table, and with an angry voice shouted, "You prick! You insult me because I am by myself, but even if the emperor himself came here I would not shift. You do not know me, but you will soon make the acquaintance of my fist." "Why are you so angry?" said the waiter. "I have not said anything to insult you." "You dare not say anything to me," the man roared. Yan Shun could not endure this, and called out, "Fellow, you don't have to act so stinking tough. You don't want to move, that's fine, but why threaten the poor waiter?" The man jumped up, and seizing his cudgel said, "I may have insulted him, but that is not your business. There are only 2 persons I give way to, and all others I treat like mud." Yan Shun was excited, and seized a stool to use as a weapon. But Song Jiang intervened as he saw that the man was not a common vulgar person. "Let us not have a row about this," he said, and addressing the man he asked, "I request you to tell me who are the 2 men whom you would give way to?" "If I tell you that, you would be stupefied." But still I would like to know their names, insisted Song Jiang. Well, one is Chai Jin, the small whirlwind. Song Jiang nodded approvingly at this and asked who was the other one. He is even greater. His name is Song Jiang of Shandong. He is called Welcome Rain. A wink passed between Song Jiang and Yan Shun at this, and the latter put down the bench. The man continued, those two men I would give way to, but I fear nobody else. Stop, I know both of them, said Song Jiang. But where did you meet them? As you know them, I will tell you the truth. About 3 years ago I stayed for more than 4 months at Chai Jin's house, but never met Song Jiang there. Do you want to know him now? I am in fact now trying to find him. Who set you to do this? His own brother. Song Jiang shook the man by the hands, and rejoiced. As decreed by heaven, you have met him. You might have failed although you traveled 100 li. I am Song Jiang. The man looked at him closely and saluted. Heaven has favored me by this fortunate meeting with you. I might have easily passed you by and traveled to look for you in vain at Old Kong's place. Song Jiang took the man into the inner room and asked, tell me the home news. Ah, elder brother, let me tell you, my name is Shi Yong, and I am a native of Daming Prefecture, Zhili Province, and I was given the nickname of Stone General. Once I made a row with a person at a gambling den and killed him with my fist. I escaped to Squire Chai's home for refuge. While staying there I heard so much of your fame that I set out for your home at Yunqing County to make your acquaintance. There your younger brother informed me that you had gone to Old Kong's home at the Baihu Mountain. As I decided to go there, your brother gave me a letter for you, and he said that if I met you, I must tell you to go back home as quickly as possible. Song Jiang had a misgiving when he heard this, and asked, how long did you stay at my home? Did you meet my father? I only stayed there 1 night, said Shi Yong, and did not see your father. Song Jiang then told him all about their plans of going to Liangshan Marsh. The other suggested that he might be allowed to join them. Song Jiang readily agreed to this, and then introduced him to Yan Shun. More wine was ordered as they all sat down. Shi Yong soon got out the letter from his bundle, and handed it to Song Jiang. It could be at once noticed it had been addressed in an unusual way, indicating trouble. The 2 characters with peace, ordinarily used, had also been omitted. Song Jiang now had a great misgiving. Quickly he tore the letter out of the envelope, and read these in the latter part, Father was taken ill and died in the 1st month of this year. The coffin is still in the house, and we wait until you return to bury him. Return at once with all speed. I, your younger brother, shedding tears and blood from my eyes in writing this letter. Now Song Jiang burst into lamentations, and striking his breast he exclaimed, unfilial son. A wrongdoer. My father dies, and I have not done my duty. I am like an animal. He thus cried with a flood of tears, and banged his head against the wall in utter despair. Yan Shun and the Stone General seized hold of him, but Song Jiang continued to wail in a dazed condition, and it was for some time before he could come to himself. Yan Shun said, elder brother, do not give way to your grief so much. My affections cannot be restrained, said Song Jiang. I cannot forget about my father. He is no longer alive, so I must depart this very night to my home. You must go to the mountain without me. Brother, your father is no more, said Yan Shun. But even if you return home at once you will never see him again. In this world parents do not live forever. So please make your mind easy, and again lead us to the mountain. When that matter is settled you can return home without any delay, and attend to funeral matters. I will accompany you there. There is an ancient saying, a snake without a head cannot go forward. You are our head, and if you do not go with us they will not receive us. I cannot agree, said Song Jiang, because in going to the mountain you will delay me too much time. So I will write a letter stating all the details, and you can take the letter to Chao Gai, and he will then receive the whole company. If I had not known about my father's death I would have gone with you, but as heaven has given me the information, every day will be like a year in length, and it is imperative that I should return at once. I need neither horse nor companion, but must start off straightway through the night." Yen Shun and the Stone General could do nothing further to change his mind. Song Jiang asked the waiter for pen and paper, and while writing, he was weeping all the time. He wrote most emphatically that the company must be allowed to join the bandits. The letter was not sealed and was handed to Yen Shun. Song Jiang was now ready to go, but Yen Shun asked him not to leave until Huarong, Qin Ming, and the other leaders arrived. But Song Jiang would not wait even for that, and instructed Stone General to explain the whole situation to the other leaders. He then set off. Yen Shun and Stone General paid for the food and wine, and the latter then mounted Song Jiang's horse, and took the men about 2 li further along the road to another inn where they stopped. About 7 a.m. the following day the main body of the bandits arrived, and Yen Shun explained what had happened. The other leaders were annoyed, and asked why Yen Shun had not asked Song Jiang to wait. Stone General explained that Song Jiang was completely upset by the sad news, and in fact would have committed suicide, and would not agree to stay until they all arrived. He had hurried off at once to return to his home. He had left a letter behind which would induce Chao Gai to receive them. Huarong and Qin Ming read the letter, and then said to the leaders, "We are in a dilemma, as there will be difficulty whether we proceed or retire. We cannot go back or separate our forces, so we had better go forward. We will now seal the letter up as we have all read it, and go on our way. If we are not received at the mountain, then we can discuss some other plan." So these 9 heroes all set off again, and in due course reached Liangshan Marsh. As they were proceeding amidst reeds and rushes they heard drums and gongs beaten on the lake, and many flags were visible on the mountain. On the lake were 2 speedy boats. On the first was Lin Chong with about 50 men, and on the next Lu Tang, the red-haired demon, with also 50 men. "Who are you?" called out Lin Chong. "Whose troops are you? How dare you come here to arrest us? We would kill the whole lot of you. You ought to know the reputation of us on Liangshan Marsh." The leaders dismounted at the side of the lake and replied, "We are not government soldiers, but have come here to join you bandits. We have here a letter from Song Jiang, the welcome rain." Lin Chong said, "You had better take the letter to that inn over there where you will find our leader Zhu Gui." A blue flag was waved on Lin Chong's boat, and a boat with 3 fishermen came out of the reeds, and upon reaching the bank 2 of them disembarked, and told the strangers to follow them. On the first boat a white flag was now waved, and gongs were sounded and both boats returned. When Huarong saw the way in which the brigands promptly obeyed orders he remarked, "It is no wonder that the government troops keep away from this place. How can our stronghold compare with theirs?" He and his company followed the 2 fishermen to the inn. They were introduced and sat down to a meal with wine. After Zhu Gui, the dry land crocodile, had read the letter he went to the arbor on the bank, and shot a whistling arrow across the lake. Instantly a fast boat emerged from the reeds and came along. He told the boatman to take the letter to the leaders on the mountain, and then ordered pigs and sheep to be killed, and a feast prepared for the 9 guests. He also ordered that all the men should encamp about there for the present. The following day about 7 a.m. Wu Yong came to the inn, and was duly introduced, and they talked the matter over. He and Zhu Gui then invited the leaders to embark, and all the baggage, etc. was loaded on the fleet of about 20 boats that was placed at their disposal. Upon reaching the Golden Strand they all disembarked, and were met by Chao Gai and many of the bandits. They then all went up the mountain, and gathered in the assembly hall. All the 11 leaders with Chao Gai were seated along the left side of the hall. Among them was Bai Sheng, the daylight rat who had escaped a few months ago from the prison at Jizhou Prefecture. On the right-hand side of the hall were seated the new 9 leaders with Huarong. In the center was burning an incense urn over which they all took the oath. All the newcomers were then sworn in. They were all given quarters, and then there was general feasting for everybody. Over the wine Huarong and General Qin Ming spoke highly of Song Jiang, and gave full details of his adventures. They also described their meeting with Lu Fang and Guo Sheng, and how Hua Rong had cut the tangled streamers with an arrow. To all this Chao Gai listened and commented, but in his heart he doubted some of the statements made. He said, "Tomorrow, I hope that you will give us an exhibition of your skill as an archer." The following day the leaders agreed to go for a stroll and view the scenery round the mountain. They had passed the third barrier when they heard overhead the cries of a flock of wild geese, which was flying in single file. Hua Rong thought that as Chao Gai did not seem to be convinced the previous day as to his skill in archery, so he would now show him a specimen of his shooting, and so gain Chao Gai's respect. So he asked one of the archers to lend him his bow and arrow, and then turning to Chao Gai he spoke, "When I said that I cut the streamers binding the two halberds together I thought that perhaps some of you did not believe me. Now you see that flock of wild geese overhead. I do not wish to boast, but I will bring down the third bird in the column with this arrow sticking in its head. If I miss I hope that you will not laugh at me." He fitted the arrow, and pulling the bow to its full limit released the arrow, which flew overhead, and brought down the third bird. A man was sent to bring the goose, and upon his return it was seen that the arrow had gone through its head. When they saw this Chao Gai and the other leaders were deeply impressed, and called Hua Rong the general with an uncanny arm. Wu Yong said, "After this we cannot call you Little Li Guang, because even Yang Yuji was not as good as you. 72 We really are very fortunate to have such a man as you here." There was not a man on Liangshan Marsh who did not respect him after that. The next day they had a celebration feast in the Great Hall, and elected Hua Rong to the 5th position. Qin Ming was married to Hua Rong's sister, and was elected the 6th leader. The position of the other leaders were also arranged. Lu Tang the 7th, Huang Xian, the 8th, and so on. The bandits were detailed to build boats, make arms and ammunitions, erect buildings, etc., but we need not go into the many details. Song Jiang traveled through the night, and the day following his departure, he reached his native village about 4 a.m. in the afternoon. He stopped at an inn kept by Zhang, the village chief, for a rest. Zhang was on good terms with all the members of Song Jiang's family. He saw that Song Jiang had been crying, so he asked, "You have been away from home for nearly a year and a half, and it is good for you to return now. But how is it that you seem to be in trouble? What is the matter? Your crime has been mitigated." "Old uncle, what you say about my affairs is quite right, but as my father has died how can I rejoice?" Zhang laughed and said, "Is this one of your jokes? Your father was here only a short time ago drinking wine, and has just gone back home an hour ago. Why do you talk like this?" "Uncle, please do not jest with me." Song Jiang then produced the letter he had received. "You will see from this that my younger brother, Song Qing, states that my father died in the first month of this year, and is waiting for me to return home for the funeral." "Ah. But nothing of the kind has happened. Your father came here with a man to drink wine this morning. How could I talk lies about such a matter?" Song Jiang now doubted the letter, although the matter was not clear yet. He thought over the matter but found no explanation, and then at last decided to go home and clear the matter up. When he entered the gate of the homestead he saw no signs of mourning. When the servants recognized him they saluted, and he asked, "Where are my father and Song Qing?" "Your father has been expecting you every day. He will be much pleased to see you. He has just come back from drinking with a friend, and is asleep inside." Song Jiang was surprised at this, and throwing down his cudgel, he entered the house. His brother Song Qing upon seeing him kowtowed, and he was not wearing mourning. Song Jiang was now angry, and abused his brother. "You undutiful beast. My father is at home, so why did you write me that letter saying that he was dead? I was so upset that besides crying I tried to kill myself. So unfilial you are." Song Qing was on the point of replying to this when his father emerged from behind the screen in the room. "My son, do not get angry," he said. "That was not your brother's fault. I wanted very much to see you again, so I told your brother to write the letter stating that I was dead, and urging you to return home at once. I heard that you were at Baihu Mountain where there are many brigands, and I was afraid that you might join them, and become both disloyal and unfilial. The letter was given to a man Young who had just come from Squire Chai's place looking for you. The whole scheme was arranged by me so that you must not feel any resentment to your brother for carrying out my orders. I had just now returned from Zhang's inn, and was going to sleep when I heard your voice. Song Jiang kowtowed to his father, and was much pleased at this unlooked-for climax. He asked, "How about my affair here? I have heard that my crime has been pardoned." "At first they troubled us a great deal," said old Sung, "but afterwards Inspectors Xu Tong and Lei Hong used their influence so they made no more trouble here." On the appointment of the Crown Prince, the Emperor issued a decree reducing all sentences by 1 degree, and abolishing the sentence of death from a number of crimes. Even if your return home was known to the Yamen, you would not receive the capital punishment, but be banished to a distant district. So we can leave the matter alone. "Do those 2 inspectors ever come here now?" asked Song Jiang. "I heard some time ago," said Song Qing, "that they had been transferred to some other places." Old Song, however, insisted that his son must be tired, and they must all retire, and this was done. It was now dusk, and the moon was rising in the east. About 9 p.m. as they were all asleep, there was a big noise outside the front and back gates. They then saw that the premises were surrounded by men who held burning torches. They called out, "Don't let Song Jiang escape." On hearing this, his father was upset. A crowded street, a compact throng. Loyalty and justice seen. A river's bank, the scene where strong heroes meet and disagree. Footnote: 72 famous archers of history.